Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hari Om to everyone. Happy Monday. Hope you had a blissful day, blissful weekend. Living the philosophy a little bit more. Yes, every week, a little bit more. So we are at a lovely part of the Bhagavatam where the great sage, old yogi Sutta Goswami is addressing the rishis in the forest, and he has explained to them that as we evolve spiritually, we gain through devotional service is the natural dharma for all species, all humanity. We all have a spiritual dharma. That spiritual dharma is devotional service to God. And so he says, as we engage in devotional service to God, to God's children, two things start to develop in us. More knowledge comes, and detachment from material desires, right? We start to spiritualize our material desires. And so that's where we left off. So let's continue today. Mantra, we left off at mantra 9. So we go to mantra 10 today. Mantra 10, Sutta Goswami explains, and Srila Prabhupada translates. Life's desires should never be directed toward sense gratification. One should desire only a healthy life or self-preservation, since a human being is meant for inquiry about the absolute truth. Nothing else should be the goal of one's works. So we've studied the Gita, so we hear Krishna mention this already to Arjuna in the Gita. So Sutta Goswami is mentioning this to the yogis. And the yogis, they already know it, but it's nice to hear it again, right? That we have a material body, and we have to maintain it. You need to eat to maintain it. But don't overeat. Right? We need to, everyone here practices yoga, we need to exercise. But don't over-exercise. We need to sleep. Don't oversleep. Don't undersleep. So we can see in the yoga culture, it's an understandable thing that you should take action to keep your body healthy, keep your mind healthy, keep your family healthy, right? And provide for your family, right? If you have your family, you have to provide for their food, you have to provide their clothing, you provide, right? You as a provider, so you have to work, but then don't overwork, right? Today in Kali Yuga, that terminology has become so rampant, right? I am a workaholic. It's like, man, you definitely need the philosophy of the Gita. You definitely need the philosophy of the Bhagavatam to bring you back into balance. How many of you have heard that phrase? Someone says, I'm a workaholic. It's, it's so common in our culture. So people love to work, and that's a good thing, right? But then don't overwork. So whenever you meet someone who says they're a workaholic, then we want to tell them, don't stop working. How about get 1 day holiday? Right? I think now they're trying to cut back, right? People are trying to go back to 4 days of work, I think. Is it? I saw something in the news, right? People are like, 5 days is too much. We can get a lot more done if people work for 4 days and they have 3 days. Anyway, it's hard to break a system. And so if they change the system to 4-3, it'll take a few years before they were supposed to the desired results to be manifested, because humans, humans, right? Oh, 4 days, okay, great. They will still do less work and enjoy the holiday. It's just the nature of Kali Yuga. And then, right, uh, so here the rishis, you see, the rishis are so intelligent. You need to work for self-preservation, right? You don't need to overwork. You don't need to, that time that you're doing overwork, use that time to study, go do some charitable work, go help, do something positively for the planet. Right? Then it becomes devotional service. You offer it to God. So this mantra is so relevant for us because we live in a culture where the companies force people and they dangle the carrot that you need to make more money. They dangle the carrot. A lot of times, people are finishing their contract. What do? 1 month before your contract is up, what do? Dangle the carrot again. Hello! You get a little more promotion. Oh, and the mind just, so they keep people in the whirlpool of materialism like this. And what people don't see, they fail to see, is the person who's dangling the carrot is sick, in and out of hospital, stressed out, not happy. Why do I want to be like that? Why don't I bring happiness into my life and live in moderation, right? We don't. When the carrot is dangled, we miss all our proper judgment goes away. I know they do that in the military, right? The military people, they finish their first 3 years or 2 years, and as they're about to leave, 3 months, 2 months before, they get a letter. If you resign to stay in the military, you will be promoted. Your bonuses is this. You'll get an upgrade in your pay, and the guy's like, they do it. Right? It keeps them in it, Only a handful of people look at the carrot and says, no. I'm going to do something that I want to do now. It's very, so the whole world is like that. Dangling carrot in front of our eyes prevents us from recognizing working hard just for materialism is not the goal of life. We love working hard, but bring balance into it, right? Bring the balance into it. So this mantra is so relevant for us. Next mantra. Or does anyone have an example of this? Of dangling carrot? Anyone? Let's have one example if you know a dangling carrot. Anyone? In your field?
I mean, in yoga, in yoga teacher's life, there's always next development and next course to take. It never ends.
That's
And sometimes I think for me, I need to take a step back and take some time and not to go one after another because everything is so exciting.
yes, you
It's
need to
like
digest
everything
it
we want to do.
first. Yes,
And
assimilate it. Yeah, that's true. But that's yoga. You're learning something spiritual, right? So that's not that's a good, but it's not the appropriate for this. What I'm looking for. Anyone else? Thanks, Basha. Anyone else?
Well, not my profession, but my wife's profession, often they say, okay, here's your raise, and then you get your bonus in 6 months. So you have to stay that 6 months before what they told you you're going to get, you get.
Unbelievable, right?
So, and yeah. So,
Yeah, and
which can I just tell you, my wife is retiring on Friday, and
congratulations.
we'll see what happens. She says
Okay.
at least 6 months she won't work again,
Okay.
but I don't know.
Maybe
We'll see.
part-time, you just do something on the side,
Maybe.
Yeah,
Yes, devotional service of an
yeah.
accountant. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. Now she'll have ample time to do some devotional service for the planet, right? Amazing. God. That's amazing, right? Okay, your bonus is gonna be there, but it's a tactic, right? And people are like, I want a bonus. I'm staying for another 2 years. Go ahead, Vivian.
I just have a question about this. It just so happens that today is my brother's birthday, and my brother is a definite workaholic. There's no doubt about it. But he is a chiropractor and he heals everyone. He's the neighborhood, like he takes care of so many people. He's always helping. It's
Yeah.
definitely, his calling. So still, you have to have some balance, right? Like
Yes, exactly what this mantra is saying. He's a healer. He brings a lot to the table. So he also needs to live in balance, in a balanced manner. Yes,
I
we want
told,
to
I
help.
keep telling him to take a trip, go away.
As a chiropractor, does he get treatment from another chiropractor?
He does. He
He does,
does.
good. Yes,
Yes.
he needs to also treat himself to the experience.
Yeah. But
And
he's
yeah, just
definitely a workaholic, no doubt.
yeah. So he also needs to balance out. Let him find, maybe add on a few more days to his vacations, when he goes for vacation, rather than, oh, I have to rush back. No, take a few more days, right? It's all about balancing.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, good. Let's go to our next mantra. Mantra, mantra, mantra 11. Learn transcendentalists. No, learn transcendentalists who know the absolute truth. Call this non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan. So he's explaining who God is here. And so you hear it in the Gita from me when we're studying the Gita. There are three expressions of God that transcendentalists, he's so brilliant here. Srila Prabhupada used the word transcendentalist. That someone is a transcendentalist when they are practicing their sadhana. But then some people naturally they get attracted to the energy of God. Naturally. They can't understand that God is a spiritual person. Their consciousness doesn't evolve there. But they can, yes, God everywhere as energy, spirit, yes. So Prabhupada says this is called the Brahman effulgence of God. So here, the great Sutta Goswami is describing that God is expressed in three ways in the Vedas. As energy, the Brahman, as Paramatma, localized Paramatma means in everyone's heart or in every atom. God is everywhere in the atom in everyone's heart. And as a spiritual being. So some people, the yogis, they normally can relate to God when through their silent meditation, they connect to God through Paramatma. They can hear God speak to them in the heart. And then they start to get guidance from God that way. As you evolve, then you develop into devotion. So as devotion, you're developing devotion to a spiritual being. So the analogy the Vedas gives is the sun globe and the sun's energy. Right now my window is open. I can put my hand and I'll feel the energy of the sun. That's the Brahman effulgence, the energy of the sun. You feel the sun rays. But then we know the sun is localized. It's there in the sky. And then we also know, although it's 93 million miles away from me, it's localized there. I know that on that planet, There's a spiritual deity that governs the sun, keeps the sun in its track in the universe. So that deity is Vivasvan in the yoga culture, right? Mayan culture. My Mayan friends, they had a name. I can't remember the name for the sun god in Mayan. It's amazing, right? You see the same things everywhere, all the different cultures. They understand. Oh, the sun deity. Canto 1, chapter 2, text chapter 2, text 10. So God can be experienced as the energy, the localized, or as loving service. So bhaktas or devotees, they fall in love with God through service to God, through devotion. And then yogis connect to God hearing, through Paramatma. And then we call the impersonalist God as the energy. So three types of transcendentalists. So how do we understand this in our practical living? Like Margaret just said, her wife is retiring this week. So that tells me, how does Margaret falls in love with her wife? In 3 ways, right? Margaret is doing laundry. So the clothing is the energy, right? Her energy is in the clothing, right? But then she's also a person. So when you find a clothing of your partner or family member, that's the energy is in the clothes, yes? And that's why we see when someone passes away, right? We have a shirt from them, or it's the energy that they express through it. We can connect to them through the clothing, the shoes, different things that they use. Their energy is in it. Their vibration, their mental power is in the energy. But then, hey, Margaret's, you're not just in love with the clothing, you're in love with the person. You'll clean the clothing, right? Wash it, but then you can give your wife a hug, right? So you can render service. You don't render service to the clothing, right? As you do the laundry, you're rendering service to the person. So similarly, the energy of God, we feel, yes, God's energy is around us. But we love the energy of God, yes, but we want to render service to the person who created the universe. So Bhagavan, Paramatma, Paramatma, Bhagavan, and Brahman. So 3 ways. So in India, I travel around India as a teenager. I met many Mayavadis. Mayavadis means they goal of life is they want to merge into the energy of God. Then when I got to the Himalayas, I found a lot of yogis connecting to the Lord in the heart. And then I met bhaktas, devotion to God as a person. So I met 3 types of these transcendentalists in my travels in India. And then as I grew, then I understood, wait. As I live in the West, I see the same thing, right? A lot of the scientists, they're actually falling in love with the energy of God, right? The energies. And then whenever I go to church, or my Muslim friends, I go to their devotion to God as a person, God as an energy, some of them, right? So we see, and they are considered transcendentalists. Means they're thinking something higher than material energy. That's what makes them a transcendentalist. They're not thinking that God or expression of God is anything material. Good. So next mantra 12. Mantra 12. Sutta Goswami continues. The seriously inquisitive student or sage well equipped with knowledge and detachment, realizes that absolute truth by rendering devotional service in terms of what he has heard from Vedanta Sutra. So here he says the serious student will naturally render devotional service. He'll get knowledge, he'll get detachment to the absolute truth in any one of these three forms. So if you're serious, you will develop knowledge and detachment. I met some yogis in India, very detached, live very simple, has no desire for anything material. And as they shared with me, yes, I want to merge into the energy of God. Right? They're so detached. I was like, whoa, okay. Then I met detached bhaktas, right? Yogis, devotees, swamis. Yes, I want to love and serve God. I was like, whoa, okay. So you start to see. So the Mayavadis, the yogis, the devotees, they all have knowledge. And they all have detachment. And then according to what they feel they naturally call into, they fall in love with that expression of God in one of the three ways. So here he's saying, and you develop it from what you have heard, Shruti, Vedanta Shruti. So this knowledge which you hear. So the rishis are understanding, oh yes, knowledge is passed down through hearing. It's an oral tradition. Parampara. Next mantra. 13. O best among the twice born. It is therefore concluded that the highest perfection one can achieve by discharging the duties prescribed for one's own occupation, according to the caste divisions and orders of life, is to please the personality of Godhead. So although he explained there are three ways to fall in to be a transcendentalist, he's saying here in this mantra, of all the three, one who renders devotional service to God. He says that all the Shrutis teaches, you gradually come to this. He says, you will be born as a carpenter, right? In the Christian culture, I think Joseph was a carpenter, right? You might be born with that inclination to be a carpenter. You might be born with the inclination to be a taxi driver, right? Because we know taxi drivers are extension of Lord Krishna. Krishna is the taxi driver for Arjuna. Right? That's what my teacher came to New York the first time. And he took a taxi from place to place, right? All the taxi drivers were Indian Sikhs. He said all of them left India to come and be taxi driver in New York. And he said, oh, they are following in Krishna's footsteps. He said, because Krishna was the taxi driver for Arjun. When he told us, I was like, okay. Yeah. So here he says, doesn't matter when you're born at a certain quality. You're a taxi driver, you're a carpenter, you're a lawyer, you're a business lady, you're a designer. Then he says, that's the gift you got from God this life. Use that, he says, all the translated, use that gift now as devotional service. This will please the heart. Earlier he says, right? This will please the heart. Yes, Babadi.
Could you go over the three forms with me again, one more time? The three forms of the Mayavadis, the Brahmins, and the yogis.
So we have the energy of God called Brahman effulgence. God as Paramatma in the heart, and God as a spiritual person. So
Okay.
God as the energy, the sun rays, the sun globe, and the sun deity.
Okay. Incredible. Thank you.
Good. Da, 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 da. Next mantra, mantra 14. Therefore, so after he says that whatever nature you're born with, do that in devotional service, he says, therefore, with one pointed attention, one should constantly hear about, glorify, remember, and worship the personality of Godhead, who is the protector of devotees. So here he makes a powerful statement that God is the protector of devotees. Anyone who surrenders to God, God starts to become your protector. Um, I read a book a few years ago. I can't remember the author, but he was explaining how the Lord's Prayer, right? The first part, and he gave the original Ara, Aramaic, the language Jesus spoke in it. And it was only the first. I think the Lord's Prayer is only like originally. It's only like a half of what the full Lord's Prayer is today. And as he was describing it, he said, so there's this mantra here, da 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 da, means, my dear, how God is your protector. So in all spiritual cultures, we approach God and God reciprocates with us. I think also, from my understanding of the Bible growing up, right, of all the books in the Bible, the God is speaking to humans, and we are having, but Psalms is different. Yes, everyone. Psalms is a book in the Bible where you're speaking to God. So in one of those, Moses is speaking, one of the Psalms, singing, right? He's speaking to God for protection as he's going up to Mount Sinai. So all the rest of the book of the Bible, God is speaking to us. But Psalms is different. And so Psalm is where the devotee is speaking to God. So this aspect of God being my protector it doesn't matter which spiritual culture we come from. This understanding is there. So in the yoga culture, God comes as the protector for the devotee in a very powerful form. Half man, half lion. Narasimha, the Narasimha incarnation, and is one of the 10 major incarnations. So if we grew up in this world, and as a little child, all of us knew we need to be protected. And whenever we were in danger, who did we go to? What was the first word came out of our mouth when a dog, at least when a dog was chasing me? The first word was, "Ma!" Right? Your mom or your dad. The protectors, please come and help me. So when we're in danger, we're seeking protectors. And then as we grow, we understand my mother is my protector, my father is my protector, my teachers are my protectors at school, right? Then as we grow, then we realize, wait, even our protectors need protection. So the ultimate protector is God. So as we develop love for God, we're rendering service to God, you should know right off the bat, God, but you have to have shraddha, conviction that God is going to protect us in all situations. And then the question is always, well, then how come this person has so much devotion to God, and then this person didn't get protected from such and such? Then the answer is, externally we don't see it. But that person is protected by God in his own sweet way. We just can't understand the karmic, right? I remember that was one of my god sisters, when our guru passed away. She wrote something. Our guru is so devoted to Krishna. Why didn't Krishna protected him from COVID? Right? And then one of my other god brothers answered her very gracefully. It's not COVID that killed our guru. It was his karmic time. If there was no COVID on the planet, it was still going to be the time that our guru was going to leave the planet, right? So you have still protection is there in other ways. But when it's our time, it's our time. So but you have to really raise your vibration. Oh yes. And if we trust it, and the greatest fear all of us have is the fear of death. And so know that a devotee becomes, God protects you. We're going to read at that moment, we're going to read in the Bhagavatam, Canto 6, the story of Ajamil. The Yamaraj and the Lord of Death, and his agents are coming to take the soul from the body. But he chanted Vishnu's name at the time of death. Vishnu, he gave this name, his son, he called his son Vishnu. So he was calling for his young son, but because the name is not different from God, Krishna showed up and told the Yama, no, this soul is pure. So protected him from the Yamadutas. So this is the conviction that we have, that we'll be protected. We can't stop death of the body. But that moment, Srila Prabhupada explains, your mind, even if sometimes someone goes into a coma, no, that's external. Internally, you are having that dialogue with God, just like we did in the mother's womb. So the greatest protector. I love this mantra so much because God is our protector. My parents are my protector. My teachers are my protectors. Then as we go, right, we live in developed countries. So who's our protector? An expression through God is those beings who have been gifted with the psyche to be policemen, customs officers, military people, right? They're protecting. So that means they're extension of God's protective energy. So whenever you meet a military, just always nice to give that sense of gratitude. They're doing their job, their service, their dharma, they're following their nature, right? If they don't get the dangled carrot. Right? Because sometimes people don't have an option, right? Oh, I don't have a job, I can go join the army. They have no military, they're not a Shatra. But then it's a situation so they do it for a while, then they realize, oh, while I'm here, I'm good at engineer, I'm good at this, I'm good at that. And then, the military does facilitate their education so that when they leave the military, they can go forward. Let's go to the next mantra. Mantra 15 is one of my favorite mantras of this chapter. The next few mantras are I remember learning the next few mantras by heart. They're just so powerful. Srila Prabhupada translates, with sword in hand, intelligent men cut through the binding knots of reactionary work, karma, by remembering the personality of Godhead. Therefore, who will not pay attention to his message? So with a sword in hand, write this phrase down. Spiritual warrior. Whereas a material warrior carries a gun and things like that, the sword is the sword of knowledge. This is the sword of knowledge. So as a spiritual warrior, we study the books to get spiritual knowledge. That is our sword that is going to cut through. Krishna tells Arjuna in the fifth chapter of the Gita, right? Karma Yoga and Krishna consciousness. With knowledge in hand, cut through the dense darkness of this age of Kali. And as you cut through it, right, with the sword of knowledge, you become a spiritual warrior. He says, your smaranam, remembering. As you get knowledge, you start to remember God. So this is the beautiful thing about Vedic wisdom. We are engineered with senses. All our senses are seeking pleasure. My tongue wants to taste something delicious. My ears want to hear something beautiful. My eyes want to see something beautiful. My nose wants to smell a fragrance that's uplifting, right? So the yogis are saying, God created your senses. He engineered them. And he knows how your senses will get fully satisfied. The only way the self will be fully satisfied is if your mind gets affected through the senses. So as you get knowledge, you are able to then start to remember God and see God, see sunrise, you see a sun, you start to see God's hand around us. The yogis offer their incense, their oils to God. The fragrance of the earth comes from God. The food we eat, wow, let's offer it to God. Say a mantra, purify it, honor. God created my tongue, God created the food. It's become fully absorbed. And when you're doing this, then it's easy to remember God. It's so easy to remember God, isn't it? How many of you use the senses constantly? All of them. Now, what happened is the material energy is competing, right? To override our senses. So we need to use this sword of knowledge to cut through the materialism. Oh, no, my senses are divinely created. My senses are amazing gifts. Let me use them in moderation. Let me spiritualize them. So this is as we get knowledge, we're able to, every aspect of our life. It's not like you have to constantly remember. No. You remember God by doing your duty for God, right? Arjun, oh yeah, okay, I'll just remember you, Krishna. I look at you right now and just remember you. No. Krishna said, do your duty and think of me, offer it to me. So as Arjun went to perform his devotional service, he understood his gifts came from God. He understood the result is God's plan. That's devotion, right? So it's not like you just have to walk around. No. Do your duty. Do it good. And then just be aware that God is right on your shoulder constantly with us, right? Teaching my yoga class, I know God is with me as I'm teaching, right? I have a friend in Australia. She's a trader, business. She's trade on stocks, but she trade on stocks with astrology. So she gets her astrological chart, the Vedic, and then she says, Charu, I can feel this. I can feel Lakshmi on this shoulder. This is her words. I can feel Lakshmi on this shoulder, and I can feel Krishna on the shoulder. I'm like, okay, if that's what you do, great. But she's aware that a lot of things are not in her hands. So I was like, that's beautiful. It's that's her duty. She grew up. She loves to trade. She's a go-getter, but she spiritualized it. I was like, wow, that's beautiful. That's the goal. I said, that's what Arjun did. Arjun went to remove evil from it, did his duty, understanding Krishna was right on his shoulder, right here, right? Krishna was in front of him, Krishna was behind him, Hanuman was above, everywhere. I was like, okay, do it. So this is how we remember God, by engaging our gifts or duty, knowing that God is right around us. Even the breath we're inhaling is a gift from God. Easy to remember God. But we have to cultivate it. Then it comes easier and easier and easier. Next mantra. One of my favorites of the whole second chapter. Mantra 16. Oh man. Shrushrushru Shanadanasya Vasudeva Kataruchi San Mahatseva Tripata Punya Tirtana Shevana. Srila Prabhupada translate. Oh, twice born sages. So remember, he's speaking to very evolved beings. So he respect them as Brahmins. But he doesn't say Brahmin, he call them twice born. So twice born sages means they took initiation already and they have the sacred thread. And so he knows they went through purification already. So he says, O twice born sages, by serving those devotees who are completely freed from all vice, great service is done. By such service, one gains affinity for hearing the messages of Vasudeva or Krishna. So this mantra is so profound. This mantra says, if you render service to someone who is pure in the heart, who's evolving, right? Getting pure. You render service to them. That is the best service you can do in this life, because it will have an effect on you consciously. Vibrationally, you will develop a desire to hear the message of God more and more and more. So when Srila Prabhupada, because the pure devotees, we're trying to become pure souls. Every one of us is a pure soul. So someone who is already ahead of us in their evolution, when you associate with them, what happens? You want to develop the same desire. So Srila Prabhupada, being this pure soul, when he left India, people would meet him and they would always say, oh, wow, they've met a perfect gentleman. Amazing. Always decide, wow, for the first time I met someone who didn't want to exploit me. This is a pure devotee of God. For the first time, someone treated me like a spiritual being. They didn't see me for my external. They saw me for a spiritual being. So the devotees, they started associate with Prabhupada. They started to read the Bhagavatam. They started to evolve. And then when Prabhupada was getting sick, the doctors who came to assist with Prabhupada, all the devotees were like, understood, oh wow, this person is doing service to Prabhupada. This person must have done many pious activities in their previous lives to get this service, right? And the doctors were not like devoted, they weren't initiated, but they would come to tend to him and they understood, oh wow, this is divinely. And even the doctors, because they're Indians, they knew, oh wow, I get to serve this person. They would leave South India. Prabhupada would get the traditional Ayurvedic doctors from like South India. And as soon as they hear who it was, they were on that train or that plane same day. Because they understood rendering service to such a pure soul is spiritually evolving. So this mantra is profound. The sages is saying, indirectly what he's saying is, I met such a pure soul, Sukadev Goswami. And because when I met Shukadev Goswami, and I render service to Shukadev Goswami, what did he render? Like the king, he rendered his hearing, his ears. And he sat there entrapped for 7 days. That was his devotional service. And as he listened to the background, wow. So when he's teaching it now, he's teaching from experience. And I can say the same thing. I had no good qualification to be a servant of my guru. My guru had so many like Brahmin disciples, born in families, never ate meat, nothing, like pure. A lot of disciples like that. And I remember he had his servant wanted to get married, so he needed a servant. And one of my godbrothers, I had come out of the Himalayas, right? I landed in Mayapur, and one of my godbrothers said, Charu, what are you doing right now? I said, I'm just floating around. I'm in the Himalayas. I might go back to Hong Kong. I'll see what I'm doing. He said, our guru needs a servant. He said, you know how to cook? I said, look, I was just living on air. I don't know how to cook. But then this mantra was in the back of my head. I didn't want to say no, but I didn't have the qualifications because I know, wow. So then the secretary was like, okay, we can figure out someone to cook. So I got that good fortune and be around someone who was so pure, so refined. And I was like, I can see hearing him teach the Bhagavatam every day, my evolution went like this. Because everywhere he went, he would teach Bhagavatam in the morning, Gita in the evening. So I grew. And by doing it, we get an affection to hear about God. Because if we don't hear about God, we'll want to hear about, hopefully not, Trump. Right? Materialism, it's amazing. Everyone, they want to speak of so much things material. No, let's hear about God. The ears competing at the three modes. Let's meditate on these mantras. Bring the spine tall. Palms on the knees. Touch the tip of the thumbs, tip of the index fingers. Close the eyes softly. Bring the whole body into stillness. Bring the awareness to the breath. And recognize your breath is keeping your whole body with amazing system, the 11, 13 system, limbic, digestive, circular. The breath is keeping all those systems active. Hence, the breath is a protector. That breath comes from God. God is our ultimate protectors. We all have the military who are protecting us at this moment. Policemen, women, immigration officers, they're all protecting us. But even they need protection. And that is, we want to always recognize that we are being protected from birth. The time we took our first breath until the time we took our last breath. The devotee who has developed this service attitude to God, God will be there for you. Yamadutas, Yamaraj, the Lord of Death, stays away. And here the great sage Sukadev, Sutta Goswami explains, if we render service to a devotee of God, that is one of the greatest things we can do in this life. As that person is pure, free from vices, it starts to rub off on us and we start to evolve. We become more compassionate, more empathetic, more kind, more loving to the whole planet, beyond the isms and schisms. Transcendental knowledge is for all humanity, all species. So we offer it as service to those devotees of God. Then our devotion grows. We want to hear more. The more we hear the Bhagavatam, the Vedas, spiritual books, the more we can replace material knowledge, material propaganda through the media. Let the mind be evolving to the most of our ability. Connecting to God as through His energy, through the Lord in the heart, and God as that spiritual person. So we can render service to the energy of our loved ones, do their laundry, we can clean their room, they localize, but we can also embrace them as the person, expressing our gratitude or love to them. Render service to them. God is in their heart. Render service to God indirectly this way. Take a deep inhalation. Exhale slowly. Breath to normal. Bring the palms to the heart. Lower the head towards your higher self. Recognizing the material world is right around us constantly. We need a sword, a spiritual warrior with knowledge to see things as they are and to live in moderation for self-preservation and use our extra time to offer devotional service. Namaste. Lift the head and the eyes. Hari Om Tat Sat. Thank you, Bashat. Thank you, Margaret. Thank you, Vivian. Mahalo, Greg. Mahalo, Babadi. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Mo. Thank you, Noel. Thank you, Yvonne. Hari Om. That's it. See you.